Who's your mama? Are you Catholic? And can you make a roux? These three questions guard the sacred wisdom of the daughters of Acadia, an ancient lineage of swamp priestesses whose roots, like that of the mangrove sentinels protecting the bayou from the brackish onslaught of coastal erosion, penetrate deep into the muddy soil to protect their way of life. I hold in my hands an ancient esoteric text through which many have tried to divine the secrets of Cajun life. Few have succeeded. I mean, not really. It's just a cookbook. But I just rewatched season 1 of True Detective and I was having a little fun. Hi, my name's Rick, and lately I've been spending my time making short-form video content. Usually goes on TikTok and Instagram, but I've been kind of hedging my bets lately because you never know how they're going to try and protect our freedoms next.
Looks like those clowns in Congress did it again. What a bunch of clowns.
Still sort of learning the ropes though, so I've been using this book as a springboard to sort of hone in on the process. I hope you like them, and I hope you stick around while I learn how to light, edit, and shoot these videos in a way that is acceptable to an audience not primarily made up of 14-year-olds on the school bus. So here's my first 3 videos on Marcelle Bienvenu's cookbook, Who's Your Mama? Are You Catholic? And Can You Make a Roux? Get used to that title because you're going to hear it a lot more.
First up, Rentier de Cochon. That's French for backbone stew, and the impression I get is that this came about once a hog had been butchered, its chops cut from the loin and set aside for later, and you were left with a nice long backbone that you couldn't really do anything with but throw in a pot while the rest of the work was being done. I thought about tracking down a backbone, but in a recipe she tells you to cut it up into chunks anyway, so I decided to keep it simple and buy a couple pounds of pre-cut pork backbones from the Korean grocery store by my place. See? Same thing, more or less. Gonna take those, season them with salt and pepper, then lightly dredge them in flour. That all goes into a pot and gets seared on all sides with some oil, or in my case, duck fat. Once there's some color on the pork chunks, we add in the Holy Trinity and soften and stir everything together for 8 to 10 minutes. After that, in goes the beef stock. What you're seeing here, however, is me having realized that I forgot to film that part, scooping a bit of liquid back into the measuring cup, and half-heartedly pouring it back in an attempt to recreate it through the use of movie magic. What can I say, folks? A lot of moving parts here. Anyway, that gets covered and we'll let it simmer for an hour or two until the meat starts to fall off the bone. Bienvenu says this was served over rice with baked sweet potatoes and smothered turnips, so while we got the time, let's get some of those going as well. Potatoes go in the oven after being poked all over with a fork, and I found an old smothered turnips recipe in the New Iberian Times, so let's see where that gets us. Andouille goes in with more Trinity and some flour, then broth, and finally the turnips.
This just seems like another stew. It's too viscous. The viscosity here. I hope it thickens. I don't think it will. I don't think there's enough flour in it. Because right now these are just boiled turnips, and that's not what I'm after here. I mean, okay, it's starting to go down.
After some time, our pork stew is thickened and we can serve it up.
Okay, so I realized I was recording my reaction while the camera was cut off, so we're gonna do that again. This was good. I liked it. As I was cooking, I didn't expect it to be, I think as decent as it ended up being. It is simple in a way that you don't often associate with Cajun food. Like you see on social media, it's like, oh, we're gonna add this thing of seasoning. Oh, there's this thing. Oh, it's this crazy, it's very maximal, which I guess is just kind of a symptom of social media, maybe. This was simpler, right? Like it's not a very complex recipe, but I think for that reason, you notice the bell pepper, right? Like when is the last time you cooked something and noticed the fruity floralness of like a green bell pepper, right? Like you don't really think of that. The broth ended up being nice. It's really fatty. That's my one thing is I would do something about the fat. I would go back and maybe add a little splash of vinegar towards the end. I think this is a success. I would consider it, good.
She writes that this was served at the tail end of a Cajun boucherie, basically a butchering session, where everyone would sing songs and play their little fiddles and accordions, which, sounds nice.
This happened every year while my grandfather, whom everyone called Pop Pete, was overseer at Burton Plantation. Stew's good though.
Quickly moving on, this next one is courtboullion, a word meaning short broth in French, named as such because in that version you just sort of poach the fish in an intensely flavorful liquid, then serve it on its own with the broth discarded. But times were often tough in Cajun country, and they weren't about to waste that flavorful liquid, choosing instead to thicken it up into a nice stew. Time for our first and only roux of the day. An equal amount of flour and oil go into our pan, after which we fry until it's the color of chocolate. That's pretty dark, but she's the boss, so we'll just take it slow and keep an eye on it. Making a roux isn't as tough as it often seems. You're most likely to run into problems when you adjust the heat without thinking about it. You might be 20 minutes in on medium-low without much color change, so you crank the heat up a little bit, but you keep stirring at the same rate, or worse, stir less. And then boom, it's burnt and you gotta start all over. So just be cognizant of your heat and make sure you keep things moving accordingly.
This takes forever on an induction burner. I mean, the nice thing about Cajun food is everybody assumes there's rules, but there aren't really rules. You know, it's a cuisine born of necessity and often hard times and using what you had around you, which is very noble. But people on the internet love their little rules. They love doing their homework. They love calling the teacher and saying, oh, this guy on TikTok didn't do it authentically. But that's fine, because it's, you know what, at the end of the day, it's good for your engagement, right? Like, I could stand here and say, you know, people in Louisiana all keep their eggs under their bed. It's just a thing that Cajun people do in Louisiana. And somebody's gonna go, oh, that's not true. I'm from Louisiana and people don't keep their eggs under their bed. Oh yeah? Do you know everyone in Louisiana? Have you met every single person who lives in Louisiana? What parish are you from? You don't even know. You can just make stuff up, right? It's a little influencer tip for you.
Anyway, look at that chocolate-covered roux. Now we put in the trinity with some garlic, let soften. Camera wasn't on for that one, so that's strike 2. And add a can of what she specifies as mild rotel. At this point, we cut the heat down to medium-low and cook for half an hour until it gets nice and goopy.
It kind of reminds me of, like, you know when you were a kid and you'd go to a sleepover and your friend was like, oh, mom's making dinner, and you're like, geez, I wonder what I'm in for tonight. Like, I kind of like my mom's food. Like, I don't know what these people eat. Maybe it's disgusting. And then you sit at the table and it's like goop, you know, it's like this, and you're like, ah. Well, Jimmy is a PS2, so my hands are kind of tied. I guess I gotta just gut it out.
Now we add half a quart of fish stock, and then, for the first time, seasoned with salt and cayenne. Let all that simmer together for a bit, and then hit it with our fish. I'm using halibut here, skinless and cut into large chunks, but go with your favorite flaky white fish. Now the easy part. We're just poaching the fish in the courtboullion for 10 to 15 minutes, or until it hits an internal temp of 125 to 130. Garnish with parsley and green onions to make everything look a little less pukey, and serve immediately over steamed rice.
I mean, that's pretty good. Like, you have to just understand, a lot of Cajun food is going to be roux, protein, rice, with the garnish. And, you know, frankly, that's what this is. That said, I have made a lot of fish stews in my life with varying degrees of success. I think this is among the better of them. It's not going to blow your socks off, but, like, you know, I thought it was going to be way under seasoned. It's not under seasoned. I do like the lemon here a lot. But, yeah. Catahoula Courtboullion. Can you tell the light box came in the mail while I was shooting? So that's good. I couldn't resist. It's gonna look weird, but I couldn't resist.
Last in our Louisiana stew trilogy is Cajun Bouillabaisse, which, like Courtboullion, stems from the French version but differs in key ways. The original was a product of Marseille's fishermen needing something to do with all the ugly fish they caught but couldn't convince anyone to buy from them at the market. In that sense, Cajun Bouillabaisse is a spiritual return to form, especially on a crummy day like today when I'd like to spiritually return to bed. In a reversal of the Courtboullion recipe, we're getting the fish squared away first. This time it's cod, but again, any flaky white fish will do, provided you've removed the skin, since that's not going to do us any favors here. We're seasoning with salt and cayenne now instead of later, and then layering the fish in some melted butter along with the chopped trinity, garlic, some canned tomato sauce, bay leaves, and shrimp. Season as you go in between layers, then finish with a few ounces of white wine poured down the side of the pot. This gets covered and cooked on low heat for just an hour. She says to just, trust her, don't peek, and do something Cajun to pass the time, like this card game, or, I don't know, go hoot on a jug or something.
So you might be looking at this and going, hey, this doesn't seem like nearly enough liquid, and I'm kind of with you on that one. But again, we're trusting the lady. She knows best, so we'll see what happens. No cartouche. No nothing. Now we wait an hour. All right, let's see what we're left with. Ooh, okay. Does smell pretty good. Oh, so hot. It's nice. It's brothier than I thought it was going to be. She was right. Could use a little more cayenne, maybe. I think the shrimp got a little too much. So the shrimp were a little tough, but that could have been me. Maybe I just didn't have it on the heat she wanted. That's good. I'll let you know a secret. I gotta go to dinner in probably a couple hours. I shouldn't be finishing this. I'm supposed to eat tomorrow for leftovers, but I might have to. Was this just blocking all my shots? Was this right in the middle?